Okay guys, so Gen 5 Glock 19 MOS. Some people, as has been the case on a recent SIG M18 video, think that I have some predetermined outcome of how reviews are gonna go. Like I come out here and I'm like, I'm gonna go stick it to SIG today, like I'm in some like 1940s movies. I'm gonna go stick it to the man. I don't do that. I don't have prearranged outcomes when I come out here. I would like to think that I'm building a channel where it's as organic as I can make it, and hey, what happens out here is what happens out here, and I'm gonna show you that, and you know, if sometimes I say it with a little bit of heat, is what it is. So let me tell you what essentially was a predetermined outcome today, that said, which is that I'm really impressed with the Gen 5 19, so I bought one. That's my gun, I own it now. And the sad part of that is that it's not going great today. It's not going great, and I don't know if there's anyone to point the finger at, because there's stuff that I can't really identify, like what is the problem here. So essentially the concept of this video that has shifted a little bit now is that, hey, Gen 5 19 is damn near perfect, and there's very, very little that you need to do to it. So the essential mods that I would do to a Gen 5 19, because really we've already got slide serrations now, right? Just a recap of these things in case you haven't been around them much. We've got slide serrations, front and rear, great. I don't need to go mill out a slide now. I don't care about having cuts in my slide to make it lighter and everything. To me, just lets more debris in. That's just me though. We've got these relief cuts up here by the muzzle. We've got a slight crown on the barrel. You know, I mean, the triggers are never great on Glocks, but they're definitely better than they used to be. We've got ambidextrous controls, so you can flip the mag release. We've got ambidextrous slide release that's a full-time ambi function all the time. We've got a minimalist mag weld that actually is pretty effective. So what they've done with this is it minimizes a lot of the stuff you would need to go do on Glocks. So the concept of the video was, hey, look, here's the essential things that you do need to do on a Gen 5 19 or 17 or whatever Gen 5 Glock you've got. And I would tell you the two things that I deem to be one even more necessary than the other. Sights is essential, and I will show off these sights for a second. And I like having some grip texture on the gun, so we've added that. So basically a frame treatment, so which was just grip texture and a double undercut on the trigger. I'm gonna hold off on, despite really loving the texture, I don't know this, okay? So don't take this as like a bash thing, but I'm not positive if this issue that I'm having right here with mags freely dropping, and it's not significant, it's not like I've got to hardcore strip it, but on a reload, I have been stripping these mags out, right? And I'm not sure if that's happening because maybe sometimes when frames get stippled, things get a little warped inside and you need to sand that. This seems wildly inappropriate, but you need to sand down the inside of the grip there. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. The sights though, I will discuss. So these are from Night Fision, and someone recently did a video on, hey, when did tritium become lame? And I kind of come back to the opinion, and again, this is one of those things that as soon as you talk about this, everyone who owns a gun who in many cases never trains with them likes to chime in with an opinion on this, and they're like, well, you know, tritium sucks during the day, and then I'm like, yeah, but fiber sucks at night. They're like, yeah, but you would have to have a light on your gun to get a PID on your target. Yeah. Cool, I get it, I understand. But I still like at night that without turning on a light, I can see where my sights are. I like that feature. Why is that a problem? If I know the inside of my house and someone's breaking into my house and I can see sights, like, I like that advantage without turning on a light. So night vision to me, so long story short, I kind of ride this line between, while I like fiber during the day, I like tritium at night. And what night vision is doing that I think is really cool is they've got this really nice hybrid where it's like the best of both. So these are the Accur8, like Accur, the number 8 sights. They are from Student of the Gun. It was a collab with Student of the Gun and Night Vision. And getting a new 19, I was like, well, I want to find some dope sights. And so I picked up a pair of those. And these things are actually really cool. So the concept is, hey, look, they're a little more tall than stock sights. They're not like suppressor height, but they're definitely a little bit more tall. And what I've got is in the rear sight, I've just got a single dot tritium that is in the rear of this sight. And then I've got this really cool front sight that has both tritium, but also a really nice hot orange dot. And you can pick a bunch of different colors on that, but it's got a nice hot orange dot that during the day, it's kind of like shooting a fiber optic. It's gonna be it's not gonna be as illuminated as a fiber, but it's still very bright, very easy to pick up that target. So I really like these things. Mine, I don't believe are centered, which is why I'm having a little bit of an issue at distance, just because everything's gonna be amplified at 50 feet. And the fact that in 20 rounds, I could not hit a round on steel at 50 yards. I mean, hey, look, I'm not saying I'm the best shooter in the world by a damn long shot, but I can also hit a piece of steel at 50 yards. So I think they're a little off center. But in terms of actually being able to get sights on target and not lose the whole target inside of that sight picture, you're still good at 50 yards. And people's argument with like sort of big front sights like that, big like, you know, like a big tritium dot or fiber or whatever it might be, like a big center front sight like that, is that you're gonna blur out your target at distance, to which I would respond, this is a personal defense gun, you know, this is a CCW gun. When am I ever shooting this at 50 yards, really? And some dude commented, he's like, Walmart aisle. He's like, that's 50 yards. I'm like, first of all, I don't think a Walmart aisle is 50 yards. In all fairness, I don't go in a ton of Walmarts, but I don't think they're 50 yards. And even if it does, you ain't shooting 50 yards inside of a Walmart. You're just not. Like, sorry. I know it does sound good, like I could do it. You're not gonna, okay? You're just not, okay? So these sights are very efficient. They're totally fine for anything you would actually need for a CCW purpose gun, which again, I like having tritium at night. We've got a nice ledge here, so you could rack that ledge off of whatever you wanna rack it off of. They're cool. They did a good job on this collab. That dot, and from what I could tell last night, because I literally got this in yesterday, it would appear to me that the rear dot and the front dot are slightly different color tritium. One seemed to have a little bit more yellow tint. I believe that was the front, and the back seemed to have a little bit more of a traditional green tint to the tritium. Again, I've only had it one night, so don't quote me on that, but that's what it felt like, which would actually be kind of cool, because you could distinguish between front sight, rear sight, even though you could probably do that anyway. It's kind of a cool little feature. But the sights I am a big fan of, and at, you know, 115 bucks or something like that, I think they're a pretty good buy, you know?
Hey fellas, real estate is awesome, but like also sucks. So next time you need a realtor, you should totally hit up 1911 Syndicate. They're like awesome. And I don't know, I would use them, and people come to me for advice all the time for like fitness tips and fashion and stocks. So woo, buy a house. Like 1911 Syndicate attacks your real estate goals.
We filmed this earlier today, and then we moved on to another video, and I had a problem with the slide not locking back, and I'm like, yo, what's going on? I had that problem earlier on a brand new Glock. Like, the fuck? I'm not touching the slide release. So I'll just go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and revolutionize the gun industry. So have you ever had someone who, they're trying to do a good deed, and like they had good intentions. You're like, dude, that's so nice, but like, you just gifted me a puppy. Like, that's a 10-year commitment and expense. Like, that's not a gift, that's a debt. Like, don't volunteer me for that. Let me decide it on my own. Well, that's what some gun manufacturers are doing right now, because we just got done filming that Pro Series M&P, and I started to put because I'm a part-time private investigator, so I started to put together the pieces of the mystery here, and I was like, hang on, both these guns have full-time dedicated ambidextrous slide releases. And then I thought, shit, I see what's going on here. So for any of you who shoot in courses much, you will typically see right-handed shooters, if they're using a high grip, right, and their grip's gonna look something like that, frequently their slide doesn't lock back on last round because they're overriding their slide release, right? That little bit of pressure and contact that's being made there is gonna override that slide stop from popping up and engaging on last round. So instead of a slide lock, you're gonna hear a click, and then you're gonna basically drop mag goes in, rack, and that's gonna be your reloading sequence, almost like a MP5 or something like that, right? So that has never been a problem for me because I'm a lefty, so when I shoot, right, I'm making contact on this side of the gun. Nothing's happening here. I'm shooting like this, so this is always free to engage. I've never had a problem with slides locking back. Well, Glock, M&P, or Smith, like these companies, they tried to do a good deed. They're like, we're gonna start appealing to a wider audience, and we're gonna start making ambidextrous guns. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put on an ambidextrous slide release that is full-time dedicated on both sides of the gun. Well, there's a problem with that, okay? The ideal scenario is that me as the shooter, just let me pick what side of the gun I want the slide release to be on. That's what I wanna do. I wanna pick. I'm capable of choosing. It's like when you go into the airport bathroom and you stick your hands under the sink and the water only runs for 10 seconds. It's like, I'm capable of turning the water on and off. Like, let me decide how much water I want to put in my hands. And that's kind of like what Glock and some of these companies are doing. They're like, look, you're not capable of deciding which side you want the slide release to be on. We're going to decide for you, and the answer is both. Well, the problem is now you fucked us all. Like, now we're all fucked. So it doesn't matter what side you shoot the gun, because now I'm fucked. I've never had this problem until now. Unfortunately, you made an enhancement that actually fucked me. Like, damn it. Like, I want the slide release to be over here. That's all I want. I want to pick which side I want it to be on. I would think righties would be the same thing. Like, hey, can I just pick which side I want it to be on? Because I'll just put it on this side, and then when I'm running the gun, I don't have to deal with any of that shit anymore. My slide will just always lock back. So this was a well-intended thing, but it's not good. My only caveat to this, and I'm saying this because literally we figured this out on the fly today, because I was getting very frustrated in the midst of this video that you're watching now. My only caveat that I don't know is that I'm hoping, can you remove one side of this? Like, can I get home and just be like, oh, cool, I don't want it on this side. I'll just take that out and everything still functions fine, single side. I know in the comments you're gonna be like, retard, why don't you go look up this stuff before you do the review? You're not even necessarily wrong, but believe it or not, I have other things to do other than review guns all day. So sometimes you figure things out on the fly, and it's a little bit of a wing it and let's see what happens scenario. So, I mean, again, I appreciate the thought behind this, but this does not work well unless I can take one of these out. And if I can't, it really doesn't work well. It's actually kind of a giant problem in my opinion. So we'll find out. We'll look up when we get back, see if I can take out one of these sides, but say what you will, that's 1 point for the SIG 320. And I know most of you thought you were never gonna hear me pay that gun a compliment. You know what? They got a full-time dedicated ambi slide release, but it is so tiny. It's like the micro machine slide release. You're definitely not gonna engage that thing. It's just too damn small. Problem is, it's also too damn small. But at the very least, you're not gonna override it under recoil. To be determined if we can remove one side of this. I have two guns here, okay? We've got Gen 5 19 and with the night vision sights, and then we've got a SIG 365 XL. I brought this because one, I put my money where my mouth is. I've been saying this is probably the best carry gun currently on the market, so I bought one. And what's cool is, and I've referenced on a couple 365 videos that I really dig that front sight. And the reality is those front sights are almost identical in terms of, it's a different style just because they're on different guns, but in terms of the actual front sight, in terms of what you're looking at on that sight picture, it's the same thing in essence. You've got tritium and a super bright exterior, kind of like a fiber optic that's surrounding that tritium. So for those of you who have a 365 or XL or sights that would be comparable to those on something else, that's the best frame of reference I can give you for what those night vision sights are looking like. Okay, I'm gonna give you one more comparison. So both personal guns, that is a Agency Arms 19. And then we've got our, what is in essence a stock Gen 5 MOS 19. And despite me being a little bit frustrated that like you know, mags aren't dropping and my slide is very sporadic when it decides to lock back, despite all of that, we'll figure that out. The comparison is still relevant, which is, hey, look, Glock has come so far on these 19s that does it still make sense to go get a Gucci Glock? And honestly, I don't really know that it does. Like, this is not about to be me talking shit about Gucci Glocks. I own one, right? Like I used to own quite a few of them. Like I'm into them. But the reality is, like, man, look, you used to be paying for front slide serrations. The window cuts, I've never really been a fan of anyway. I think I just did it back then. This was years ago because I thought it was cool and like it was going to make me more like John Wick, even though John Wick wasn't out yet. You know, and you threw on sights, and then you had the RMR cut and stipple and double undercut on your trigger and all that kind of stuff, and a match grade drop in barrel, all that kind of stuff. You just go, man, I got to tell you. And then minimalist magwell on that. I got to tell you, man, these things are close enough now to being this that you can really drop significantly less coin and get something where you do a couple modifications to it and have it be close enough to that you don't need to go drop the extra 1,500 bucks. Because, like, look, let's call it what it is. You're talking a $2,500 gun versus a $1,000. You know, I mean, you're talking, what is it, 630, so you're about 680 out the door. Throw a couple $100 on a stipple job, 100, 115, 20 bucks on sights. We're talking $1,000 all in versus 2,500. It's such a dramatic price hike on this kind of stuff that I return to my opinion that I've had before, which is, look, if you buy this kind of stuff, it's fine. I don't fault you for it, but buy it because you like it, not because you think it's gonna make you a better shooter. It's not. Like, the most notable difference, the trigger's better, and you could drop in a better trigger inside of a stock Glock. So, I mean, look, buy this kind of shit if you like it, but the truth is, man, I mean, if we're talking about a $1,500 price cap, you could literally go damn near build 3 of these things. You could go build a fucking 43X, a 19, and a 17, and have a gun for every purpose for the same, close to the same price as one of these. So take it for what it's worth. For those who are like, I'm a Glock fanboy or something, one, please look at the name of the channel. It should be clear what I'm a fanboy of. But I'm not a Glock fanboy. It's just kind of the gold standard for polymer guns, you know? But I also don't know that you have to spend 2,500 bucks on these. So take that for what it's worth. A little bit of a rocky day on this. We'll sort out these problems, get this baby up and running super smooth. But Gen 5 19, I'll still tell you, I think is about the best bang for your buck that's on the market right now. Later, kids.